Team 28 of 52 teams of 8. Help make America wiser and kinder with antique rival wisdom team quotes that have passed the test of time to make humanity great with words of wisdom to encourage, educate, and entertain generations for centuries. Give your kids free easy extra advantage math, spelling and reading workbooks you can download for free at stop2think.com. Free easy math wisdom workbooks with Octo-Repetition to grow math self-confidence. Free easy alpha Cypher coded puzzles teach letters, numbers, and phrases using antique wisdoms that encourage and educate. And since time is money, practice reading faster with 52 teams of antique rival wisdoms that have passed the test of time to encourage, educate, and entertain generations for centuries. Team quote 28.1. To begin, begin. William Wordsworth 1770–1850. This quote, attributed to William Wordsworth, is fascinating in its elegant simplicity. Let me break down its meaning. The phrase to begin, begin is essentially a tautology, a statement that appears to repeat itself, but carries profound practical and philosophical meaning. 1. Direct action over preparation. It suggests that the best way to start something is to simply start, rather than getting caught up in excessive planning or preparation. 2. Simplicity over complexity. The quote cuts through overthinking and analysis paralysis. It strips away the barriers we often create for ourselves. 3. Circular wisdom. The first begin states the goal while the second gives the method, creating a perfect circle of action and intention. 4. Universal application. Whether applied to writing, Wordsworth's field, creative endeavors, personal goals, or life changes, the advice remains equally valid. The quote speaks to a common human tendency to delay, overthink, or wait for perfect conditions. Wordsworth's advice is refreshingly straightforward. If you want to begin something, the only real requirement is to begin it. Interestingly, while this quote is widely attributed to Wordsworth, it embodies the same straightforward, nature-inspired simplicity that characterized much of his poetry and philosophical outlook. Team quote 28.2. Routine is not organization, any more than paralysis is order. Arthur Helps 1813–1875. This quote by Arthur Helps makes a powerful distinction between mechanical repetition and genuine organizational effectiveness. Let me break it down. The first comparison, routine is not organization. Routine implies fixed, repetitive actions done without necessarily understanding their purpose. Organization, in contrast, suggests purposeful structure and thoughtful arrangement. Just because something is done regularly doesn't mean it's organized or effective. The second comparison, paralysis is not order. Paralysis represents stagnation, inability to move or change. Order implies deliberate arrangement serving a purpose. The appearance of stillness or stability doesn't necessarily mean things are well ordered. The deeper meaning. True organization requires active engagement and understanding. Simply following patterns mindlessly is not the same as being organized. Effective organization should enable flexibility and progress, not rigid adherence to set patterns. The quote warns against mistaking surface-level stability for genuine functionality. In modern terms, this might apply to workplaces that confuse busy work with productivity, people who mistake habit for efficiency, systems that prioritize maintaining the status quo over actual effectiveness, organizations that value rigid procedure over meaningful results. Helps suggests that real organization should be dynamic and purposeful, not just a series of fixed routines or frozen structures. Team quote 28.3. Today a reader, tomorrow a leader. Margaret Fuller 1810–1850. This quote by Margaret Fuller, a prominent 19th-century American journalist, critic, and women's rights advocate, carries a powerful message about the relationship between reading and leadership. The progression from reader to leader suggests reading builds the knowledge foundation necessary for effective leadership. Today's consumption of ideas becomes tomorrow's ability to generate and implement them. Learning precedes leading, understanding before action. The path to leadership is through education and intellectual growth. Fuller's perspective is particularly meaningful given her historical context. as one of America's first female literary critics and journalists. At a time when women's education was often limited, when access to books and learning could dramatically change one's social position. The quote implies that leadership isn't innate but developed through learning. Reading is not passive but preparatory. Knowledge accumulation has practical application. Personal development is a journey with distinct stages. In modern context, it reinforces that information gathering and processing are crucial leadership skills. Being well-read contributes to better decision-making. Intellectual curiosity often precedes innovation. Leadership potential can be cultivated through deliberate learning. The simplicity of the quote masks its profound implication, that leadership is accessible to anyone willing to first be a dedicated learner. Team quote 28.4. Love the giver more than the gift. Brigham Young, 1801–1877. This quote by Brigham Young expresses a profound perspective on gratitude and human relationships. The surface meaning addresses how we receive gifts. Look beyond the material item to see the person behind it. Value the relationship more than the object. Appreciate the intention and thoughtfulness over the gift itself. At a deeper level, it speaks to the primacy of human connection over material possessions, the importance of recognizing and cherishing the source of generosity, the distinction between temporary pleasures, gifts, and lasting relationships, the need to prioritize people over things. The wisdom applies broadly to personal relationships, appreciating those who support us. Professional contexts, valuing mentors over their specific teachings. Spiritual matters, loving the divine more than divine blessings. Parent-child relationships, teaching children to value relationships over presents. In modern terms, this philosophy counters materialism and consumerism. Transactional relationships, taking generosity for granted, focusing on what we receive rather than who gives. The quote suggests that true wealth lies not in what we receive, but in maintaining meaningful connections with those who care enough to give. Team quote 28.5. Learn what is true in order to do what is right. Thomas Huxley, 1825–1895. This quote by Thomas Huxley, a prominent biologist and advocate for Darwin's theory of evolution, presents a fundamental relationship between knowledge and ethics. The sequential logic. First, seek truth and understanding. Then, use that knowledge as the foundation for moral action. Truth-seeking precedes right action. Knowledge enables ethical behavior. The deeper implications. Ignorance can lead to unintentional wrongdoing. Good intentions alone aren't sufficient, they must be informed. Moral decisions require factual understanding. Education has an ethical purpose beyond mere knowledge acquisition. In modern context, this applies to scientific literacy informing policy decisions. Research before taking action on social issues. Understanding consequences before making choices. The responsibility to be informed before taking stands. Huxley suggests that ethics and knowledge are interlinked. Truth-seeking is a moral obligation. Right action requires proper understanding. Education serves a moral purpose. The quote argues for the essential connection between intellectual rigor and moral behavior. We must understand correctly to act rightly. Team quote 28.6. Never have a companion that casts you in the shade. Baltasar Gracian, 1601–1658. This quote by Baltasar Gracian, a Spanish Jesuit and philosopher, offers complex and potentially controversial advice about relationships. The surface meaning suggests avoid companions who overshadow you. Choose relationships where you can shine. Be wary of those who might diminish your visibility or worth. However, this deserves deeper analysis. The problematic aspects could promote unhealthy competition in relationships, might encourage avoiding people who could help us grow, could foster insecurity rather than confidence, may lead to surrounding oneself with lesser talents. A more constructive interpretation might be choose relationships that allow mutual flourishing. Avoid toxic relationships that deliberately diminish you. Seek balanced partnerships rather than dominating ones. Value your own growth while respecting others. Historical context. Gracian wrote during Spain's Golden Age. His work, The Art of Worldly Wisdom, focused on practical success. His advice often reflected court politics and social climbing. The competitive nature of 17th-century aristocratic society. While the quote suggests protecting one's interests, true growth often comes from engaging with those who challenge and inspire us, even if they sometimes cast shadows. Team Quote 28.7. A contented mind is the greatest blessing you can enjoy in this world. Joseph Addison 1672–1719. This quote by Joseph Addison, the English essayist and poet, offers profound insight into the nature of happiness and fulfillment. The core message identifies contentment as not wealth, fame, or power, not external achievements or possessions, but rather a state of mind, the highest form of worldly well-being. The deeper implications. Happiness is primarily internal, not external. A peaceful mind trumps material success. Contentment is active, not passive. Mental state determines life satisfaction. The word blessing suggests something received rather than achieved, a gift to be grateful for, a state of grace, something beyond mere pleasure. The phrase "in this world" implies an acknowledgement of life's temporal nature, recognition of worldly limitations, the distinction between earthly and spiritual satisfaction, the practical rather than theoretical nature of this wisdom. Addison's perspective remains relevant today when society emphasizes constant striving. Social media creates endless comparison. Material acquisition is equated with success. Mental well-being is increasingly recognized as crucial to life quality. The quote essentially argues that learning to be content with what we have and who we are might be the highest form of success we can achieve. Team Quote 28.8. Liberty is the right of doing whatever the laws permit. Charles de Secondat 1689–1755. This quote by Charles de Secondat, Baron de Montesquieu, presents a nuanced definition of liberty that is foundational to modern legal and political thought. The key elements. Liberty is defined within legal boundaries. Freedom exists within, not outside of, the law. Laws create the framework for freedom. True liberty is ordered, not chaotic. The philosophical implications. Liberty is not absolute but regulated. Freedom requires structure. Laws protect rather than restrict liberty. Society needs rules to ensure freedom for all. Montesquieu's perspective reflects Enlightenment thinking about ordered freedom. The relationship between individual rights and social order. The role of law in preserving liberty. The distinction between license and liberty. Modern applications. Constitutional democracy. Rule of law. Balance between individual rights and social responsibility. Structured freedom versus anarchy. This definition suggests that true freedom isn't the absence of constraints, but rather the presence of just and clear laws that allow individuals to exercise their rights while respecting the rights of others. And to help raise school test scores and self-confidence. You can give your kids free easy extra advantage math, spelling and reading workbooks you can download for free at stop2think.com or buy at educationstopshate.com. Free easy math wisdom workbooks with Octo-Repetition to grow math self-confidence. You'll get plenty of repetitive practice of age ranges and averages of our 52 teams of 8 quote authors. Free easy alpha Cypher coded puzzles teach letters, numbers, and phrases using antique wisdoms that encourage and educate. Can you decode this Cypher quote of encouragement using either our learning to spell or just for fun instructions? And since time is money, practice reading faster with 52 teams of antique rival wisdoms that have passed the test of time to encourage, educate, and entertain generations for centuries. We offer printed versions and timed videos with background music. Sign up for free weekly emails of 52 teams of antique rival wisdom workbooks with easy math, spelling, and reading practice. And if you'd like to get paid for sharing our wearable wisdoms, keep this in mind. Everyone I know wears a shirt, and most of us change them daily, so change your shirt and change the world. Social equalities are blatantly subliminal antique positive wisdoms repetitively shared without saying a word. This applies to all our wearable shareable wisdoms, like pretty witty baby onesies and baby tees that you and others will see and read multiple times a day. The same is true with pretty witty kids, but they'll also share these wisdoms with anyone that can read at daycare or school. Youthful truths let your kids gain confidence sharing antique wisdoms with their friends. Imagine them sharing words of wisdom with classmates and teachers. I think tees I wear is a super easy way to share words of wisdom that have passed the test of time. Our social equalities help make us all wiser and kinder with blatantly subliminal messages promoting a more fair and equal opportunity society for all. And don't forget our giftwisdoms.com for birthdays and holidays that makes it easy to share the wisdom with clothing, coffee mugs, and magnets. So do the future a favor by encouraging, educating, and entertaining with words of wisdom that have passed the test of time to make us all wiser and kinder. With wearable wisdoms to fit babies, kids, and adults, you can clothe a whole family, city, or state. Join the 52 of 8 today at 52of8.com.